This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
Ben Settle, compulsively punchable.
He's the kind of guy who you'd probably just punch on the arm really hard if you ever met him.
Worshipped by feminists.
He pokes fun at feminism and women, just joking around, his whole sandwich making thing.
Mildly inspiring.
Yes, I recommend the Ben Settle Show, and anybody who isn't on it, that's their own loss.
Somewhat authentic.
Ben is a very distinct personality. There's no fluff. I can't stand fluff.
Syrupy sweet.
Tells it like it is, and sometimes may not be the most polite manner, shall we say.
Kind of useful.
So I have spent tens of thousands of dollars on coaching and masterminds, and I've learned more from Ben Settle's podcast than from any of that.
Semi-intelligent.
Ben sounds like a crazy guy at times, but he's one of the smartest individuals in marketing I've ever met.
Mostly forgettable.
He's always in the forefront of my mind.
The BenSettle.com podcast begins now.
This is Ben Settle, the BenSettle.com podcast with my trusty producer Jonathan Rivera.
Howdy.
Hiya. So I don't know how long this is going to be, Jonathan. I just, you and I are very exhausted right now for various reasons. And if we make this a 4-minute podcast, we'd both be happy.
You're lucky to have it.
You're just lucky to have that 4 minutes of just pure non-awesomeness. So the title of this one is There's No Crying in Copywriting. Now, I ripped this off, completely got this idea and swiped it, however you want to call it. I don't really care. When I was in Wing Chun lessons. So I was practicing Wing Chun with my, the person I practice with, as I've mentioned before, is Sifu's wife, who is a black belt in Sansu Kung Fu, which is totally different than Wing Chun, but she's a total badass. But she's still a girl at the end of the day. And sometimes, she might have to shed a tear or two. Right? Just not because of pain or anything. If anything, I'm the one that's almost getting hurt all the time. But just it happens, they're husband and wife, and sometimes they just have their moments, right? And it just happens. And one time it happened, and Sifu goes, "There's no crying in Kung Fu." Trying to make her feel better. He was saying it he wasn't saying it like to be a jerk or anything. It just is what it is. I'm sure when you're talking to Cupcake sometimes, especially since you guys are now working together, that sometimes she probably gets a little emotional thinking that, you're angry. I'm guessing. Am I right or wrong? I mean, you tell me. I don't know.
Yeah, we finally realized that I have two emotions, and they are mad and madder.
Perfect. See, you are what we call, Jonathan, a guy.
Thank God.
That's just the way it goes. You're a guy, and that's how we are. We just get passionate about something and people think we're angry. And sometimes we are angry, but we get, I can get passionate about something. My dog literally gets scared. She thinks I'm angry. I'm not angry. I'm just passionate about stuff. So that happened. And I thought, some of the people I've tried to train in copywriting, and some more successfully than others, who have been females, never the guys, obviously, but the girls. Sometimes I may have prompted a tear or two, Jonathan.
Surprise.
The ex-copywriting apprentice, I pretty much tormented her emotionally with this copywriting stuff. Not because I wanted to. I mean, that was not my intent at all. I just, I'm just a rigid teacher. I want X, Y, Z done. Don't stray from it. If you do, I'm going to yell. I'm going to get mad. And her and I would get in blowouts. Oh my God, Jonathan, just blowout. The arguing was just, it would get so bad because I would say, don't do this. Don't take a rush job. And then the next day she'd go and take a rush job. Don't do this for someone like one of your podcasters, who I won't mention.
Yeah.
Dan Meredith. At the time he had his own ad agency. Maybe he still does. I'm not sure, which was pretty cool setup. He would get these clients and he'd hire copywriters to do the work. And he had my ex-copywriting apprentice doing some work. And, he gave her a rush job. And I said, don't take that rush job. Do not do it. And then she went and did it because she felt bad. And so, we actually broke up over that for a while.
Really?
That, it pissed me off so much. Oh my God, it was so defiant. I would say, if you're going to talk to this client, you don't do free consultations.
Yeah.
Okay. You just don't do it. She would go and do a free consultation. That's literally the day after I would say these things, she'd go do it. Now, be honest with you, Jonathan, this is all my fault. I blame myself for this because I'm the common denominator in all these stories, right? So it can't be them. I'm wise enough to realize that it can't be them because she's not the only one that's happened with. And so I know I'm the common denominator, and I know it's how I'm teaching or something, or just I'm very much from the Pi May school. I'm likely to snatch a copywriter's eye out to discipline them than be nice about it, right? So in that case, so I'm just saying, in her case, like there are times when, I prompted a tear or two out of her. Not because I was trying to be mean, but sometimes I would just get passionate about like why you shouldn't do X, Y, Z. And she would go do it. And it came off like I was super angry, which would then prompt her to like, either cry or yell back. And then, of course, it would escalate from there. So again, I'm the common denominator in this. It's not her. It was me. But there's no crying and copywriting, right? Like that kind of stuff. Like people have got to remove the emotion and the ego from feedback. Otherwise, don't seek feedback. Do not seek my feedback if you're just going to get mad at me for giving the feedback. So, and that happened many times. Ben, what do you think X, Y, Z? Well, I think it's horse shit. Then the waterworks start. It's like, don't ask me then. It's like, you're asking me to approve something I cannot give my approval to. And I'm just going to call it out for what it is. So no crying and copywriting. There was another person of the female gender who I helped with some copywriting, not like as an apprentice or anything, but I just wanted to help her. And the same thing happened with her once. We were hanging out and she was writing some emails and she was not doing it the way I commanded her to do it. And I got angry and I raised my voice and she started crying, thinking I was like super like I was like gonna like attack her or something. No, I just get passionate. I just know what works and I know what doesn't work. And so if you're gonna take instruction, if you're I guess, you know what, Jonathan, I didn't really plan this, but I guess this is really just written. This podcast is for women. It ain't for the guys.
How kind of you.
How kind of me. I'm going to do something nice for the women. I really am. I think that they need to not, if you're going to find a male teacher who has passion, and especially if he has a bit of a temper like me and Jonathan, okay, and all that, you're going to have to, don't do it. Just don't pick us as teachers. Okay, because we're gonna do what we're gonna do. We're mad and matter, and we know you're gonna stray, and you're gonna want to do things in your own little way and all that, because that's what everyone does, man and woman. They're all the same. But the girls they tend to just take it more seriously. Like when they tend to be the ones that cry. But there's no crying in copywriting. Don't waste a good copywriter's time with crying. Do not do it. And I think the way around that, Jonathan, is if she's going to learn from a guy copywriter, don't let it be a guy you're dating.
Yeah,
I think
no
that's
kidding.
how it comes. I think if you took the dating part out, none of this stuff would ever happen. So there's no crying in Kung Fu, just like there's no crying in copywriting. And this should be further evidence, Jonathan, of why I have no business teaching anybody one-on-one. I'm too arrogant. I'm too self-absorbed. And, for sensitive people, now this goes for men and women. If you're sensitive, you would never want to learn from me anyway. Because I don't have the patience for nonsense. I'm going to fly off the handle sometimes. It's just what I do when I see something that's amiss, something askew, if you will. And this it's funny, John, because this episode really is so pointless. But I think there was some valuable information in it for people who want to find it. And that's all I'm going to go with today. I told you this would be short, and I think 7 minutes is short enough. And Next week, we'll do a much more comprehensive episode as I cover 7 more email players rules, which are like fan favorites for long-term listeners. And I'll see y'all then.
Wow. All right. So I don't know. That's officially the shortest one you've ever done, but another bensettle.com podcast is in the can. Remember not to cry, and we will be back with you next time.
You've been listening to the bensettle.com podcast. To get your hands on a free issue of Ben Settle's prestigious $97 per month email players newsletter, simply go to www.bensettle.com.
This is the podcastfactory.com.